Okay.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to the Calm and Courageous podcast. It is a podcast, a guide to powerful allyship in raising children with disabilities. And I just want to thank you for joining me today. I've been following you for years. I always have questions for you. And for our viewers, I'm just going to read your bio, okay? Amy Rivera was born with primary lymphedema, a condition that shaped her journey into advocacy, education, and patient empowerment. As the founder of Ninjas Fighting Lymphedema Foundation and creator of the Rivera Method, she has dedicated her life to raising awareness and providing innovative, patient centered solutions. Through her work, Amy equips individuals with knowledge and tools to take control of their health, proving that thriving with lymphedema is possible. It sure is. So, for those of you that don't know, I also have primary lymphedema. And Amy has been someone on the front lines, providing people who are living with it and then people who are uneducated, don't know much about it, with knowledge. And just really, for me, you just really made me feel like so normal and so seen and so not alone. And so thank you so much. And thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. And you are normal, whatever normal means, right? And you are seen and heard. So welcome to like the Lymphy family is what we call it,
Love it. I know.
right?
Living.
And it is, it's a family, it's a community. The outsiders, so able-bodied individuals who don't understand the connection we have, but it's like an immediate connection. The moment you meet someone virtually or physically, or anyone who is dealing with lymphedema, it's like you can finish each other's sentences or thoughts or ideas or frustrations, and it's we get each other, and so that sense of community is a bond that we have. It's just naturally there, and I'm so grateful for it.
Me
So
too. Me too. And
yeah.
good for you. I'm a part of your Facebook group. I bought the Fast and Go lymph wrap. So when you're someone living with lymphedema, you have to bandage, you have to pump, you have to elevate, you have to exercise. It is an entire a life's commitment
Mhm.
and dedication that you have to have. But for you, I wanted to ask you, can you share your journey into being diagnosed with primary lymphedema?
Sure. So I was born with primary lymphedema in the 80s. In the 80s, okay? It's a really important part there. So I was born with it, and when I was born, the lymphedema was present at birth. So the entire right side of my body was double the size of my left side. My parents said I looked like two different infants. And of course, my mother was a new mother, first time mother, so she was already scared and emotional, and what do I do? Already the new mommy jitters, that we all have as new parents. So then you throw in this and you're like, what's wrong with my child? And unfortunately, for 32 years, my mother never did. It was the way I was born, or it was abnormal swelling, or it's the way she carried me in the womb. Those were the three answers that my parents got for, like I said, 32 years. So I walked around not knowing what was going on with my body all the way up until adulthood. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to manage my disease because I didn't know I had a disease, and I didn't even know what management meant or looked like at that time. So my right leg then grew to be 200% larger than my left leg due to the series of events.
Yeah, yeah. So, how did that impact your life?
So it was definitely a roller coaster. I remember being bullied at a very young age, fourth, fifth grade. I remember being bullied by my peers and by adults who, who didn't understand. It also created an identity crisis in me. So I didn't know what this thing was that was attached to my body. And I didn't understand why nobody else looked like me. I didn't see anyone, meet anybody, talk to anybody, read about anybody until I was in my 30s. So this entire time, I thought I truly was alone. unseen, unheard. Like that's why ninjas fighting lymphedema is ninjas, because we hide in plain sight and we're misdiagnosed, we're unseen, we're misunderstood, we're unheard. And so that really was what catapulted the identity crisis when I was a teenage girl. So when I'm being bullied in school, I was called the girl with the elephant leg, the girl with the big leg, anything like that. That's who I was. I just wasn't Amy. My name, nobody called me Amy, right? So one day got this mail, and it was to join a pageant. And at the time, my leg wasn't as severe as it had gotten to be the 200%. It was noticeable and it was large, but it wasn't as severe as it became later on. So when I saw this, I thought I had a really great idea. I think I was like 15 years old. And so anyone who has children or teenagers, we know everything. You can't tell us anything different. So I find this pageant entry and I go to my mom and I'm like, I want to enter this pageant. Now, years ago, for me, I didn't have to be in a bathing suit. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm all right, right? You think about these things when you have swelling in limbs. You're like, do I wear a bathing suit? Do I go camping? What
Everything.
if they want me to go shopping? Or everything you think about. So when I finally broke my parents and they finally agreed to let me do this pageant, because at first they were like, no, no, no. Um, I finally got them to do it, and I get there. And when I see everyone at this pageant, I'm like, I shouldn't be here. But I was more afraid of my parents than me walking out of that pageant because I really pressured them to let me do this. So when I get there, I already have these insecurities about myself, but then I see all these professional makeup and these girls who've been in pageants for years. I thought, oh, I have no business being here. But I was afraid of my parents because I just like really pushed it. And so I entered the pageant, and one of our evenings was in an evening gown, and to stand and answer like why I feel like I should be the beauty queen and what should I do and what would I do with my time and so forth. So I had everything written out and practiced and studied. I get on the stage, and yes, I'm wearing a long dress. So I wear long dresses. I get
Thank
on the stage.
God, long dress.
Right? I'm wearing long dresses. I forget everything.
Oh no.
You talk about, I sat there and I looked at the crowd, and it was dark and you're on stage and then the judges are staring at you, and I'm like, what do I do? And I see my parents way out there, and their faces are just like they're holding their breath. Like they're like, you don't want to see your child do this. And I decided at that moment to share why I was there.
Yeah,
And
girl.
I spoke from the heart.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't belong here. I came here because I was tired of being made fun of, but I feel like I belong in a circus. And I explained a little bit about what I was how I was being made fun of. And I said, for me, it's if I won whatever that title was on that sash, and I took that back to my school, people would forget to call me the girl with the big leg. They would say Amy or the title, which I don't it's part of my history, it's part of my journey, but I don't lean into it as much because it came from a negative place in my life. But I won the Miss Junior America title, which is a great achievement. But I was trying to change my identity and I was really embarrassed about my leg. And so for 2 days at school, things were like really cool. Oh, congratulations. Oh, Amy. Oh, Miss Junior America. It was like really cool. There was no leg mentioned. And then about the third day, someone said, and just nonchalantly said, oh, you're the beauty queen now with the big leg. And that just took off. So it really put me through an identity crisis.
Of course.
It really did.
Of course.
Yeah. And that was my high school like memories.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that. I was in pageantry too, like in high school, and then I did it
Okay.
again as an adult, and I'm hoping to do something more in the future. But I will say that I identify with you for a lot of reasons, but that was definitely one of those for me. Is that it was and I don't want that moving forward, but as a young person, it was like, listen, I am a whole person. This is something that I am living with, but let me show you
Mhm.
all the ways in which I am okay. But, one of the things with this podcast is I really want to normalize disability because there are so many people
Mhm.
who are living with body differences, cognitive differences, and there's so much shame around it. It's so much
Mhm.
unnecessary shame. And I often tell people, and I said this before on our first episode, that it's more uncomfortable for the people who are able-bodied than it is for the person living with the disability. Even people who know me and know that I have lymphedema, they have a hard time talking about it with me. They won't
They
even.
do. They do. And I'm over here making jokes about mine. Like I want to be the leg lamp for
Yes.
and, some people like one time I went somewhere and they're like, "What do you want me to call you?" I'm like, "The leg." And they're like, "No."
I've come to peace. I'm a peace,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
hard for them.
And I understand that. I do. I do. Um, but yeah, I'm there with you. Like, look at the whole person,
A whole person.
not the symptom
Yeah.
or the visual issue that you may see that you think. Look at the whole individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And representation matters.
Hmm.
And talking about things,
Hmm.
you have no idea how many, I'm sure you do because you're in this field, but invisible disabilities that people are walking around with. I was
Hmm.
talking to my husband, I'm like, we don't really address um, mental health as a disability. If someone's
Hmm.
bipolar, schizophrenia, all of these
Hmm.
different mental disabilities that people have, we treat it as a moral issue. It's this
Hmm.
negative thing. We make fun of them. But if we talked about these types of disabilities, then it would just set so many people free. Like disability is
It would.
it's a part.
Absolutely. And everybody, I don't care who you are, you're dealing with something.
You're dealing with something or someone
Something.
you love.
So,
Yeah.
or someone you love. Exactly. And I think what lymphedema has done for me personally, and you might understand, you'll probably understand this, is what it's done for me because you're in the pageantry. Okay, so we're just going to put it out there. People have said to me so many times, "You're too pretty to have this."
Oh, yeah. Oh, but you're pretty though.
What does that mean? I didn't know that disabilities or diseases picked and choose who they're going to like affect. So that was always a slap in the face for me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was one of my biggest things. And that's probably one of the reasons why I don't really talk about pageantry and stuff a whole lot because I want people to know how smart I am. I want people to know how active I am. I want people to know what type of fighter I am or what type of caring person I am. Not you're too pretty to have this disease or anything that comes with it. So for me, it's really about education, 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 and being open with it. But in so like I joke, I like to make jokes a lot
Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
You know? And then that's just the reality of it. So that's why it's so important to really embrace the whole thing
Yeah.
rather than the symptom or what you see every day, just that one area
Yeah.
of your life. Hmm.
Do you have a faith practice? Is there anything that you do that helps you to maintain your resilience, your
Hmm.
positivity?
Hmm. I pray every day.
Yeah.
I pray every day. Um, you know, I'm really glad you asked me that because that's a really it is my foundation with everything in my life.
Yeah.
And people ask me, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I'm obedient
Mm.
to what the Lord has called me to do.
Come on.
And what he has said to me as a child, that promise he gave me as a child. Now, I didn't know the Lord until years later. But at 8 years old, he spoke to me
Mhm.
and he told me his promises. I've already surgery. I didn't know how. I didn't know when as a kid. I didn't know if I was ever going to have two even legs, is what I called it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be um, accepted. I wanted to do these things. And the Lord promised me that as a child. And so every day I keep my eye on the promise,
Yeah.
on the calling. God gave me this journey for a reason. And I've walked alone for 32 years for
Wow.
a reason. And I wouldn't ask for another journey. I wouldn't ask for anything.
Me either.
10 years ago, I'm like, can you just cut it off?
Wait.
But I wasn't where I am, spiritually. But my faith is my foundation that helps me every day, not just with my own disability, but for me to be able to pour into others. And that's the important part of
And
that.
you're good at that. It's definitely your calling. I mean, I'm someone that believes that God calls us to a myriad of things,
It does.
but
It
this
does.
one particular one, Amy, that you have ministered to me as
Mhm.
a beacon of hope and light, and like it has just done so much for me. But like you said earlier, unless you know, you don't know. And having
Yeah.
someone with a similar
Yeah.
condition, like, oh God, it's just been so, it's just
Mhm.
made me
Right.
feel part of a
Right.
community. And I love getting on the Facebook group and asking a question, and we
Mhm.
all have something different to offer, and we all try something different, and it's just so nice.
Mhm.
So this podcast is really about just I just want to get rid of ableism. I know it'll always be around.
Mhm.
It's just what it is.
Mhm.
But I just want to make people just kind of lighten the load for people who are
Mhm.
living with disability or difference, just to say, hey, look,
Yeah.
here's a safe space.
Absolutely.
And like you said before, you are normal, you are okay.
Mhm.
Particularly for parents, because if you ever, I have two children. I'm more than that. I have five. My husband and I have four together, and then we're also raising our nephew. And
Mhm.
two of our children are hard of hearing.
Okay.
And so when they were born, I remember thinking, my pregnancies were typical. I carried them full term, and I was like, what did I do? What was I exposed to? Just all the questions, and then you're like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
others have questions, and we already know how people feel about disabilities. So you have all of this insecurity and doubt, and I was like, well, what can I do
Mhm.
so that I could bring the parents to one little area like the Facebook group and all you do for me with lymphedema to say, hey, my kid's dealing
Mhm.
with this or my kid's dealing with that. I think what I
Mhm.
heard or I read is does your daughter also have lymphedema?
So yes, my daughter actually has, unfortunately, she has POTS,
Okay.
EDS, the lipedema, and now she has lymphedema.
Okay.
And unfortunately for her, it's much more worse for her because it really affects not only like the swelling and the fatty tissue disease, but it affects her brain function and her heart function.
Okay. Is the fluid building up around her brain and heart, or it's just
It's so the fluid's not building up around her brain and heart, but what it's doing is because of the EDS and the POTS, it's misfiring, and then her heart, she's constantly in a tachycardia, which is a high heart rate. She'll be sitting here and her heart will be at 200,
yeah,
just you know. And then she gets dizzy and then she faints, and she's had a heart monitor, and then she's got to do another tilt test, like all these things that come with disabilities, rare diseases invisible disabilities because if you look at her, you look fine.
yeah,
That is like the number one thing I get from not just from strangers, from your own family members,
yeah.
from
Oh,
people that know you, like, well, you look fine.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would you like to see what's going on inside?
One of the things that people will say as about my two kids that are hard of hearing, they'll say, "But you know what? They're cute. You
See?
you've got cute kids, so at
You're
least
like, I
like
know they're cute, but I don't need you to tell me they're cute.
that's their way of trying to make me feel better." I'm like that
Right?
that doesn't work.
it doesn't
Uncredited.
work. And I think that's the thing. And again, I know where they're coming from. They're really trying to come from a good place. I
Yeah.
do understand that. But if we just normalize
Yeah.
it, like, hey, they have hearing aids. Like, I have a garment.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? My son also he also has a few disabilities
Yeah.
that are invisible. Well, he looks fine. Well, he's fine when and so again, I really love what you're doing because you're building a platform of awareness for really parents to feel okay.
Yeah.
Take that breath, let your shoulders down, have a safe place where you can express your concerns, your frustration, your happiness, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
agree.
as a parent, I mean, we all get frustrated with our children,
Yeah. Of course.
all. Um, but we also want to make sure that they are capable of being fruitful adults.
Yeah.
And if we lean in on the disability and give them that crutch in a way, like, but they're cute.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're this. No. Okay, we get it. I get it. You have this, but you're really good at this and you're really good at
Yeah.
that.
Come on.
And you can pour into you here. And with my son, he has a hard time learning. He was born 7 weeks early. He has dyslexia. He has alopecia. He has these things. And he was really struggling how to learn and he was getting frustrated.
Of
And I
course.
sat down with him and I'm like, I learned the same way.
Yeah.
You do? I do. I go, do you want me to teach you how I learn? He's like, yeah. Because I have cognitive issues too from my lymphedema.
Yeah.
And so when I taught him how to use his skill set or his superpower, then he was A's, B's, A's, B's. But if I hone in on where he's lacking and focus on that, then it builds that insecurity in
Yeah.
them, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
That's
I'm like,
Amy, that's so awesome. What do you, and this can apply not just to lymphedema, but to also disabilities, what do
sure.
you think needs to change in terms of awareness and support with people living with lymphedema or disability in general? Something that needs to change.
There's a lot of things that need to change, right? The first thing I would say, let's just say lymphedema right now. So for someone like us, we see in the community, people are afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And everyone is at a different part in their journey. So where you are, I may be somewhere different and vice versa.
Yeah.
So you don't want to push someone because that could be detrimental to
Yeah.
their growth.
Yeah.
For their growth, their personal with these situations and the lifestyle changes and stuff. So what you want to do is we want to focus on having that conversation first. We want to be prepared to have it.
Yeah.
And how I used to practice, I've never shared this before. This is the first time I'm sharing this. I used to practice having a conversation with a stranger in the mirror. And
Oh,
I did. Like, what is lymphedema? I didn't used to be able to explain it. Like, I'd just get flustered and I'd be like, what are you asking me? You should know. Or even if it's a physician, like, why don't you know?
yeah.
It's a whole nother show. But, but what I realized is if I want to start change, where does it start?
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah.
And so that's the number one spot. And I think that goes for anything and everything. It starts with me.
Yeah.
And if I want someone to listen, how do I communicate with them? I reach them where they are. I teach them in a loving, caring manner. And I say something like, it's okay if you don't know. I was a nurse and had no clue. I really want to relate to them because what I've noticed in human behavior, people don't like to not know. They don't want to say, oh, I didn't know that, or they don't want to admit that they don't know something,
Yeah.
especially when you have physicians who've given their entire lives to this, to whatever this is, or they're hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. for their educational career, the last thing you want to do is come in there and say, you don't know what you're doing and this is wrong. We're all human beings. And so if we take that approach that the Lord has with us every day,
Yeah.
with individuals, then the awareness will happen more. The conversations will happen more. The judgments, the walls, everything will start to kind of go down. And I think that's the first place we need to start, is with us.
That is the perfect place to end. That you answered all of my questions. It's about advocacy, it's about self-empowerment, it's about educating people, and no one is a better teacher than you about your own disability.
And you know, and I'll tell you this also. You said in the beginning, like you follow me and you followed my journey. I'm gonna tell on myself. I do that to keep myself accountable.
Yeah,
Like I do that to keep myself
I bet.
accountable
Of course.
because I get tired too, you know? And so if I'm helping someone, I'm keeping myself accountable and it's helping me learn my own journey even more.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's giving you a reason to, you know what, I'm gonna stick to my bandaging. I'm
Hmm.
gonna make sure I do my
Hmm.
rebounder, I exercise, I eat this.
Hmm.
Because it's so easy to get out of the
Hmm.
habit. I mean, it's easy to
Absolutely.
get out of the habit of taking care of yourself anyway.
Hmm.
But when you
Hmm.
add in an additional thing, of course. So
Yeah.
really,
And as parents, okay, so parents, we always put everybody first. Our
yeah,
children, us, our children, our parents, pouring into ourselves will help us better manage our children.
yeah, I agree.
It will.
I agree.
It will. It will.
I agree. That's so good. Amy, thank you so much. This was for me.
Well,
And
real quick, you want to see something?
yeah,
Before, look what I'm wearing.
I'm gonna get it. Can I order
Thrive with lymph. It says, I don't know if you can see it.
to live life with lymphedema to the fullest despite circumstances? Oh yes. Can I order that
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
your
I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link.
I'm for sure gonna
It's,
order. Are you joking?
yeah, they're super soft. They're super like so
Hey,
I
Barbs,
love
do you have
yeah,
thermoses?
bugs. Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. I'll send you a link and stuff because to me, that's what thriving is.
Oh yeah.
It's not I'm gonna, we hear all these thriving things, but thriving's really whatever it is for you. Whatever
Yeah.
it is for you and for you. Whatever that means, that's what you do.
Amy, thank you so much for being on the Calm and Courageous podcast. Oh, and I really hope that this does not only a lot for other parents, but for people living with lymphedema or any type of disability, invisible disabilities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully, I can have you back on again.
Oh, I would love to. I love just chatting with you. You're so fun.
Yeah, you're a friend now. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day.
You too.